Hey guys, Haz here at Shield Canine, and today we are going to talk about why I will probably never do PSA. Now, up until very recently, I was actually quite interested in the sport of PSA to the extent that I was already selecting a litter that I would take a puppy from and start in the sport. And I was going to chase after the PSA 3, and I was going to compete. I was looking forward to competing internationally in PSA, so on and so forth. And I was very interested in the sport. So this isn't to drag anybody. This isn't to troll. This video is because I actually, the things that I'm going to talk about, I would love to see change. I don't think they will change, but I would love to see them change. And if they do change, then I would immediately think about coming back into the sport. And I think a lot of other people would too. But anyways, I'm going to speak first about what I like about the sport. Okay, because we'll start with the positives. We'll start with what actually attracted me to the sport and what made me, really strongly consider, and up until a couple days ago, decide that I was going to be involved in the sport. Number one, highlight reels. If you get into the obedience and the protection in PSA past, the PDC entry level title, the ones, the twos, the threes, it's actually quite entertaining. It's fun to watch. It's really, it makes some fantastic video content. As you guys know, I like to shoot dog content. And I think it's just really cool. And I love being part of cool training and, participating in that type of challenge. And I love, making highlight reels with my dogs. And PSA is full of highlight reels once it gets going. I like the variability. I like that things aren't always the same. There is a lot of variability, which in and of itself brings a challenge, especially once you get into the higher levels. You're never quite sure what's coming, right? And I liked the fact that PSA had a lot more young people involved. If you go to a PSA trial, the median age, I would say, would be around like early 30s, maybe even younger. Whereas you go to an IGP trial, the median age is probably more close to the 60 mark, right? So obviously, when you see that there's a lot of young people involved in something, you think, okay, maybe there's going to be a future here, right? So up until very recently, literally 2 days ago, I decided that I was going to be a part of this sport and I was going to invest my time, effort, and money into the sport, and I was going to go and chase that coveted PSA 3 title, which, to be quite honest, I know some people think I'm being cocky. I had no doubt that I was going to achieve in relatively short order. All that being said, here's what I don't like about PSA, and here's the primary reason that I decided I would not be a part of PSA moving forward. Okay? So, first of all, I want you guys to understand how I'm coming at this. I am a competitor. I do not just do IGP just for fun. I compete. I compete to win. I like to win. I like to compete at the highest level. I've had the privilege of competing at the highest level in IGP. I've had the privilege of standing on podiums multiple times and, doing quite a bit at this point now in my career in the sport. I'm not just out there to get the title. I'm not just out there to show up and stamp my ticket and say I was there. I'm out there to compete at the highest level. That's what motivates me, and that's what generally motivates the people that I like to train with. With all of that, what do we need in order to successfully compete? What does competing even mean? Well, it means thousands of hours of time, right? Because you're not just trying to get through it. You're trying to achieve the very pinnacle of optimized performance in both you and the dog in the context of whatever the sport is that you're doing, okay? So, optimized performance, aka thousands and thousands of hours and careful training to build up to the level in which you can now go out there and show your stuff. Thousands and thousands of dollars, right? Tens of thousands, to be quite honest, right? Time, hotels, travel, training, all the various vet bills, all the various buying the dogs, all the various things that are going to be involved, all the expenses that you're going to have to pay, right? In time and in money in order to accomplish that level of pinnacle performance. I know what it takes. It is a daunting amount of time and money, okay? So for me to invest that, I need to be sure of one thing, primarily one thing I need to be very sure of. I need to be sure that the judging has some level of standard and objectivity. And when it does not, right, and I've unfortunately now seen it many times repeating itself over and over again. I've talked to people that have been involved or are involved in the sport, and I've heard things from multiple people, and I've seen it with my own eyes multiple times now, with people that I have helped to train, or just like watching people go out there and do their thing, in that sport, either in video or in person. There is no standard that I would say, there's no discernible standard to the judging. Now, I'm sure some people are going to be like, oh yeah, no, you don't know, there's a rule book. I don't care. There might be a rule book, there might be a standard, no one's following it, all right? Or the judges just simply don't have the requisite amount of knowledge and experience in order to exercise the rule book and the standard properly. Allow me to explain, all right? And I'm going to use two real world examples from the same trial, okay? Both of these people work with me, so I feel comfortable to put them up against each other and critique them. I will speak about other handlers and other incidences that I saw at the trial, and I'm not doing this to hate on the judge of the trial. I don't know her. I'm sure she's a nice person. I've never actually heard anything, like the people there didn't, think anything bad about her or anything like that. But this is just a microcosm of the broad problem that I have seen and I have heard other handlers speak about in the sport of PSA, and what would prevent me from engaging in it until they fix this problem. So, number one, this is my friend Lucas. He's got his dog Hammy. I am going to play his PSA 2 obedience routine. I'm going to preface this by saying this individual, Lucas, and his dog got 76 points in this obedience routine, okay? It takes 75 points to pass a PSA routine. So that means he got 1 point above basically the pass-fail line. So this is like a very low score, okay? Now, for those of you that are involved in the sport of IGP, you know the pass-fail line is a 70 points. So this would be like the same as if he got like a 71 or 72 points in obedience. For us in IGP, if someone got 71 or 72, we know that so many things went wrong in their routine. We know that they probably missed like several major exercises, and it was probably just a shit show from beginning to end. With all that being said, let me play this video. We'll go through it. So you can see here now that they're going to the start cone.
It's funny. I almost feel like nervous, like I'm trialing. It's like that same feeling.
So forget my comments there in the background. Here. So
You should chill out on that.
I think it's a little pixelated. Let me make it a little smaller here. There you go. I think my internet's a little bit slow. Okay, so you guys can see it now.
Looking good. Actually, he's not as bad as he was in the parking lot.
So I'm going to stop right now, and I'm going to tell you why the judge took the majority of points. I'm going to say this. We can watch through the whole thing. Lucas did not miss any exercises with his dog. His dog completed every exercise. The judge said, I'm taking half your healing points because of handler help in the healing. Okay, let's watch. A lot of touching. Apparently, so there's a down. I'm going to also tell you every mistake that this dog made. Okay, now, as you guys can see, very intense dog, very driven dog. Unfortunately, my internet's slow, so things are a little bit pixelated right now, of course. Now, giving the command to heal. I want you to observe the dog's body language. I want you to observe the dog's body language. Active, engaged, and powerful. Now, again, he got dinged like most of his points apparently for handler help. Okay? Yeah. Now, I want also you guys to understand where I'm coming from. I compete at the very top level of IGP. I know a thing or two about handler help. If IGP is known for one thing, we are known for how picky the judge is about obedience, how nitpicky. Everything is nitpicked in IGP. The way your dog tracks, the way your dog does obedience, the way your dog looks in obedience, right? Everything is nitpicked. It's not just can the dog do it, it's how well does the dog do it and how does the dog look doing it, okay? And if you handler help in IGP, you better believe you're about to get your ass handed to you, especially at the high level.
Very nice.
Look at the power that the dog shows in the behavior.
Can't get too worked up. If he gets too worked up,
Look at the intensity that the dog shows. Look at the engagement the dog has for the handler. I really wish it was a little bit clearer. Unfortunately, again.
Very good.
There you go. The internet speeded up a little bit here.
Drive here. That's good. Normally he's way too high.
And guys, keep in mind, this is PSA obedience, okay? This is not IGP, right? The standard is PSA here. All right? And it's a lot more about the dog getting through it without biting the decoy or something like that.
Very good.
Look how correct the dog is. Look how engaged and powerful the dog is. Okay? Now, that was close. So that was probably the biggest mistake of the routine. There, you saw the dog left the handler and was about to go to the decoy. He gave a second command. The dog came back to him. This was the biggest mistake in the routine.
That was almost a problem.
There you go. All right. Okay.
And that almost ended pretty badly.
All right. We're going to get right down to the retrieve. This is the last recall here.
Excellent.
Oh, yeah, I forgot there's a down on the recall. Down could be slightly faster. There's a finish.
Is she? Again? Like, where'd you get her from?
So now they're going to do a retrieve.
Oh, shit.
So the reason I say oh shit here, by the way, is because the bowl that he threw for the retrieve did not land between the decoys. It rolled right past this guy's leg. So I said, oh, the dog's spooling up. He may bite the decoy. That would obviously signal an immediate failure.
Very nice.
So as you can see, no problem. Could be a little more direct on the entry there. Good. And that's the end of the routine, folks. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell you from an IGP standpoint, like IGP judging, what would have happened to him in the healing. His healing would have been pointed for two things. The dog sometimes touches him in the healing, like there's slight bumping in the healing, and occasionally the dog is vocal in the healing, right? That is where he would have lost his points in IGP. It would not be half the healing points. The dog generally shows a nice position, right? You can see nice basic positions. The dog is straight.
Big thing with him is
Okay?
can't get too worked up.
The mistake that you see from this dog, like I said, is occasionally, let me see if I can find some more healing here that we can see.
But actually, he's not as bad as he was.
Right.
In the parking lot or in training last week. So yeah.
So
Parking lot or in
this
good.
is probably the closest he comes to touching the dog,
good. Actually, he's not as bad as he
right?
was.
Just his hand being there. Okay, fine. His hand is there. Do you know how many handlers I saw in this trial with doing the old zombie arm sticking out? And they all outpointed him. They all outpointed him. They all got more points than him in obedience, right? So obviously, you know, having a stiff arm isn't the be all and end all. And he only had it briefly. You can see that actually the majority of the time, let's go in the healing here. And I'm doing this to be clear, okay? The majority of the time there, you can see he's moving. Now, obviously, things to take into consideration. Lucas is a big guy. He's going to move in a certain way. The dog obviously has to move in relation to him. There's going to be some bumping just because of the physical, the nature of the physicality of Lucas and the nature of the dog, right? In order for the dog to be close and tight and intense in the healing, there's going to be some bumping. You got to be willing to accept it. Of course, the dog is straight. He's intense. He's driven. Now, we are going to compare this to Brian, okay? Now, Brian did not start with me. He has been working with me now off and on over the last few months. And I did tell him I was going to do this. I'm not doing this to... the only reason I'm using Brian here is because Brian also works with me now. So I feel comfortable to critique him. There were other handlers. So for instance, there was a handler that went before Lucas, right? That actually got, and I know a lot of people, oh, he's just mad because his friend didn't get, no, I don't care. Like if he screwed up like half the exercises, didn't complete things, and it was a shit show, then he deserves every bad point he got. By the way, just to be clear, the dog bit the wrong decoy at some point in the protection, right? And he was DQ'd. No arguments there. It happens. It is what it is. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about legitimate things. We're talking about things where we are going to say that the routine that this individual did, right, is only barely passing. This is like a low level, low standard. But meanwhile, there was a lady went before him. Her dog's looking all over the place. Basically pet healing. Failed to sit multiple times. Failed to make the tunnel, right? And clearly didn't show nearly the same level of drive and intensity. She got more points than him, right? Like, and I see this type of thing happen over and over and over again in the sport. This is just to be clear, this is a microcosm. I'm just pointing to these things as real world examples of what I'm saying. So this is Brian. We'll even get rid of the muzzle healing. We won't include the muzzle healing because obviously Lucas did not show muzzle healing. So I want to just compare apples to apples here. Now, to be clear, Brian's doing a PSA 1. Again, I don't feel comfortable to show a PSA 2 routine of someone that does not work with me just because I'm not trying to, trash other handlers, whether they did well or they didn't do well. It's immaterial. I want you to see this. So, by the way, it's a PSA 1, but he still got more points in obedience than Lucas has. Look immediately at his arm, okay? Look where his arm is. Look at the position of the dog in relation to him and look at her demeanor.
I think I should go find a dog.
And he knows that he has to work on this. She shows some stress in the healing, right? She is very in front of him. She looks away constantly, okay? Is it enough to get through the routine? Absolutely. She shows again a little bit stress in that left turn. I'll look away, right? Ear slightly pinned. This is all things that he knows he needs to work on, by the way, is why he's coming to me, right? And it's better than it was. Again, not trying to hate on Brian. By the way, he earned his the first leg of his PSA 1, so congrats to him. But I want to be clear about what my beef is. Look at this. Look at it, right? Like, for me, this is not good healing. For anybody that has eyes to see, these two dogs are not the same in the healing. Look at the tail. Look at the body, right? She's doing it. But is this the desired, is this the ideal? Now, she wasn't given high points, but she got more points than Lucas, and there was no mention of, how bad the healing was, and she definitely didn't get barely passing. I think she got like an 82 or something like this. Now, if she had gotten a 75 or 76, I would say, yeah, fair enough, man. Now, here's the thing. Again, no major mistakes. Just the behaviors were slow. The dog was 4G. The dog was not, as intense as we'd like to see. You can see it, right? You guys get the idea of what I'm saying here, right? Now, we juxtapose that. With that, right? There's no comparison. Look at the intensity. Look at the commitment the dog has, right? So my point is this. It's great that you can do that, right? And still pass. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's people in IGP that are showing like a level that's that, like similar to that, and they pass too. For me, a guy like me, it's not about passing. It's about achieving the pinnacle of excellence, right? Now, you want to say that he's handler helping his dog? Okay, right? Well, if that's handler help, then I handler help my dog at the World Championships. You know what I mean? I'm not going to show a level lower than that. Like, if I go, my dog is going to show intensity and power in all the behaviors. The critiques that you could say for him, dog slightly touching, dog occasionally vocal. The dog was vocal in almost every down, right? And the dog hits him sometimes on the recalls. The dog could be a little bit more direct in the retrieve, right? Now, he did not fail any major behavior. The dog finished every exercise, showed power, and showed commitment in every exercise and drive. Is the goal not of any dog sport for the dog to show commitment, power, joy, enthusiasm, and all the work that they do, right? Instead, no, we're going to say, he touched his dog maybe slightly by accident because he's a big dude and the dog's like, right up on him. So occasionally his hand maybe brushed his dog as they were walking around. That's handler help? I showed you guys the whole routine. Obviously, I forwarded through him walking away from the dog, stuff and that. But I showed you guys the whole routine. There is no handler help, right? Or if there's handler help, it's so minimal, occasional, where he kind of slightly looks at the dog or whatever. Everybody did it, by the way. Everybody did it. And there was multiple people got higher obedience scores than him, okay? His dog did not miss any exercises. If that is barely a pass-fail, then I guess the standard of obedience in PSA is significantly higher than the world level in IGP. Now, we all know that that's not true, but I'm saying this to make a point, right? There is a huge problem in PSA with judges being ridiculous in their giving of points. I'm going to say another thing, too. I saw mathematically impossible things. So, just to be clear, Brian, his obedience was not good. He knows that he has work to do on his obedience, right? Fantastic job, by the way, on finishing the first leg of your PSA 1. His protection was awesome. Dog was intense. Dog was very correct. Dog only required one extra command, I think, in the healing one time. Okay? No major mistakes. I saw someone go up, and he had a nice dog too. Okay? He required 3 out commands. The last out, he actually approached the dog, got really close, and screamed out at the dog. Right? In the PSA 1 protection. He then required multiple commands to get the dog to come back to him. He used multiple commands to get the dog to stay in the down for the fighting decoy scenario. Right? He handler helped the shit out of his dog, and he used multiple commands at multiple points through the whole routine. They were both awarded the exact same score, 91 points in protection. Yeah, PSA, by the way, for you guys, is 200 points for protection, right? They were both awarded 191 points. Now, I think Brian earned every one of his 191 points. The other guy, nice dog. They had nice healing. It was cool. No, it would be impossible. You're saying those two are exactly the same? This is the kind of stuff I'm speaking about. There is no standard. If there's no standard, there's no competition. It's, does the judge like you? Was the judge, maybe feeling good today? These are the kinds of conversations that we need to be then having if we want to be serious about competing in PSA. Now, I know people like, it's not about the points. It's whether you pass or fail in PSA. I get that. But for me, it is about the points because I compete. I strive for excellence in everything that I do. So if we're going to pretend that this picture, right, is just as good, as Brian's healing, right? If we're going to pretend that this level of intensity and power and commitment from the dog is the same as what you saw Brian do or what you saw multiple other handlers do, then I'm not interested. I'm not playing this game. I'm not going to put in the thousands of hours, the blood, sweat, and tears to go and be given a barely passing score when my dog shows power, precision, and commitment on the field, right? And somebody else's dog walks on the field like a pet, looking around and fails, more than one exercise, fails to perform more than one exercise. We're not getting the same points. Now in IGP, does some stuff happen? For sure. Do judges sometimes favor some handlers over the other? I'm sure they do. It's human nature. But there's only so much leeway because the standard is the standard. If a judge did something like this to me on the IGP field, even if they hated my guts, they would be in trouble. A, the crowd would probably have turned on them. And B, not like in terms of violence, but they would have booed and they would have been like, this is crazy. The videos of it would have circulated everywhere. The person probably would have had to answer to, the board of judges and all this type of stuff. This is commonplace in PSA. This is common. It's unacceptable for me as a handler who takes this very seriously. And if I did PSA, I would give everything I had to it to see this. I won't play. I just won't play. I'm not interested. Now, he took it well, by the way. He wasn't angry. I was angry watching it. He wasn't angry. Just to be clear about the handler. And I know I'm not doing him any favors with this video, right? Especially with the way the sport is and the unfortunate lack of standard that you see, the lack of concrete standard in the judging. Again, guys, I'm speaking to this from someone who wants fairness and objectivity in the judging to the level that, obviously human beings are capable of offering that. If the judge hates me, sure, I'll expect to lose maybe 5 more points than the guy he doesn't hate. But 5 is one thing. 20? No, we can't do that. It just doesn't make any sense, right? It's not acceptable. So for me, PSA, please. And again, I don't even know the name of the judge. I'm not speaking against her. I'm speaking about a systemic problem that I have observed. Multiple competitors have told me about this in PSA 2, by the way. I've seen it multiple times with my own eyes, okay? Both in video and in person. And PSA, please fix this. If you fix this and you get serious about standardizing your judging, being clear about what is good heeling, what is not, what is good positions, what is not, what is desirable. Do you want dogs that show commitment, enthusiasm, and power? Is that dog that shows, let's assume there was another dog, did everything the same that Lucas's dog did, but showed the behavior that Brian's dog showed, right? Let's say that this dog did exactly the same routine that Lucas did, but showed the same behavior that, showed this behavior, and then you have a dog that shows this behavior, this power, this intensity, this commitment, right? They should not be judged the same. The judge should be like, that dog is powerful. That dog is enthusiastic. That dog shows a level of commitment beyond the other dog. Yes, they completed the same behaviors, but that's what we want. We want more power. We want more we want more commitment. We want strong dogs. In IGP, there's strong dog points. If your dog shows a little more strength, enthusiasm, power, you get some more points for that. It's not just, did he get through it? It's, how did he look getting through it, right? These are not the same. And PSA, they need to fix their judging. They really, really do. I don't think they will, just to be honest, but I would love it if they did, okay? Now, what else do I not like about the sport? I'm going to mention these other 2 things just to be real clear because I've harped on the judging long enough. I think I made my point. And again, no hate towards any specific judge. I've seen it multiple times. And I'm sure there's also some judges out there that are going to be like, yeah, power, commitment, I love it. Oh, that dog looks a little down. That dog looks a little pressured. That dog, is kind of barely hanging in there or looking around in the heeling. We're going to give that dog less points than this dog here. And we're not going to come up with some silly idea like, oh, he's handler helping. It's like, I don't know if you've ever walked with a dog that shows that level of power in the heeling, but you're going to touch each other. Your hands are accidentally going to touch your dog. Unless you want to walk it's funny, after this routine, one of our friends said to him, hey, you should walk like a Nazi, do the goose stepping so that your hand can't even be anywhere close. And it's funny, the trial before that, they told him, hey, you can't stick, because before he would not allow his hand to touch the dog, so he would keep his hand out a little bit. And they said, oh, that zombie arm thing that you're doing, that's not allowed. That's handler help. Meanwhile, I saw multiple other handlers do it. It wasn't even mentioned, right? Or it wasn't pointed as severely. Even if it was mentioned, it wasn't pointed as severely as this guy. This guy got just wrecked. He got bent over, right? And taken without Vaseline. No offense, Lucas, right? So anyways, this has to be fixed. Clowning. PSA is awesome. It's cool. The protection is really cool, right? I don't know why the decoys feel the need to act like circus clowns. You don't need to do that. The different exercises that you do, the long attacks, the call-offs, the multi-decoy scenarios, it almost feels like every PSA decoy has to kind of act like a circus clown. Say silly jokes all the time, do fucking cartwheels and weird shit. I'm expecting to see them coming out there shooting each other with squirt guns and stuff like that. And it's I'm not saying be militant and serious all the time, but understand that what is your goal here? Is your goal to be a circus clown, or is your goal here to put pressure on dogs, show dogs that have pressure within the rules obviously of the sport, do something that's awesome and cool? Or do you want to be a circus clown? The clowning really takes away from the cool. It's kind of like if someone had a really cool gun and then they painted it Barbie colors. It's silly, you know what I mean? It's it just takes away from the quality of the thing that you're seeing. The decoy work is interesting. It's exciting. They put pressure on the dogs. The scenarios are awesome. And then they do some random clown shit. And it's just why? I'm not saying you can't talk shit to the handler or whatever to try and throw him off. I get that's part of the sport, but the clowning is too much. It's too much. It's silly, right? I don't know. I think they might have gotten that from Mondio Ring, and that's why I would never want to do Mondio Ring. It's kind of like, it's very silly. It's like a circus act, and it's like it's completely unnecessary. I think if you want to be cool and you want this to be a cool thing and have that kind of cool factor, maybe be a little bit more serious in the protection. That's just my opinion. I'm sure some people love the clowning. And then the last thing, I've been to a couple of PSA trials. The setups, guys. This sport would be interesting and entertaining if you were constantly rolling dogs. The amount of time it takes you to set up a 3, the amount of time it takes you to set up even 2s and then 1s, the setup times are egregious. You're literally sitting there for hours doing nothing with nothing happening. They need to fix that. And a few times I've seen that. Now, I know that some people who've recently been to some people went to a Worlds that they had in an indoor facility. They said it was really, really awesome and super entertaining, and they were constantly rolling dogs, so on and so forth. And it was much more entertaining than this. I'll take their word for it. I personally haven't seen it. Almost every trial that I've been to, when it's actually happening, it's fun, but there's a lot more time of it not happening than happening. And I'll end with this. I want to be involved in the sport of PSA, and if they ever do fix the judging, I would sincerely enjoy being involved. I have no doubt that it would be difficult. I have no doubt that at some points I would go on that field and it wouldn't go my way. Just as I know that people that work with me and friends of mine that go on that field, in the near future, it's not going to go their way. Things aren't going to go well. It's just the very nature of dog sport and especially that sport in general. I'm totally fine with that. That's what makes it fun. If it was easy, everybody would do it. But for me, how clearly there is a lack of standard in the judging, like how clear that lack of standard in the judging is, that is what will keep me, a guy that likes to compete at the highest level and do everything 110%. That's what's going to keep me out of there. I'm not putting that time, that energy, and so much of myself into something in which I wouldn't get that. So I'll give you guys an example, right? So he walks off the field and he gets given a barely passing score. And I'm like, bro, you have nothing to be ashamed of. That was fantastic. Your dog showed power and commitment through the entire routine. Super clean obedience. In my opinion, second best of the day. There was a Bouvier at this trial, by the way. Fantastic dog. For me, it had him slightly beat because the dog didn't crowd. The dog was forging slightly, but the dog was not vocal in the downs and was slightly faster in the downs, and the dog did not hit the handler in the recall. So for me, that's why, and he completed all the exercises. And it's a Bouvier, which is freaking cool. So for me, it kind of beat Lucas on that day. So, hey, that's me being really I don't know the guy. I don't know his dog. Fantastic Bouvier. Best Bouvier I've ever seen in my life. Awesome. Also, unfortunately, DQ'd in protection. All the PSA 2 dogs that day DQ'd in protection. I don't know about the next day. But when you walk off the field as a handler, I know how much of himself he put into that. And he got that 76 points. I know what that feels like, right? To not receive the recognition for what you've accomplished. That took a lot out of him. He still went back out there and did the protection, and he stayed for the next day and tried again the next day. Unfortunately ended up pulling in obedience because he said that the dog was out of control in obedience. Fair enough. So he pulled, and that's it for him on this trial. We're better luck next time. That's all fine. But I'm talking this 76 points is a microcosm of the entire problem that I see in PSA and that other people see, that will stop myself and other guys that are doing IGP from making that switch. That and maybe a couple of the other. The clowning for sure really takes it away from me, and the long setups. Other people, again, have also mentioned these things to me. So this is why I will not do PSA. PSA, please fix these things. I think you'll get a lot more people that will be interested in your sport. Like I said, the highlight reels, the younger crowd, the variability, the challenge. I love all of these things about your sport. I will still continue to help my clients, prepare for your sport and show that type of obedience, even if you continue to punish it. Because for me, a dog should be enthusiastic. A dog should be committed. A dog should be powerful. The handler shouldn't have to repeat commands 10 times. For Lucas and this dog, just to be clear, his problem is the dog's too active in the healing. He needs the dog to actually calm down a little more in the healing, right? The dog's too much power. There's too much power, right? This is what most people there, they have the other, hey, Foos, please be with me. He doesn't have that problem. He just walks normally, kind of ambling along, and the dog's just like, oh! full power, right? You, as a judge, you should be able to see that and say, dear Lord, this dog wants to be here. He's committed. It's not the same as the other guy that had to give the command 3 times and his dog was going for a walk looking at butterflies. Thanks, guys. I'll see you on the next one.